Go somewhere else. I can't take this nonsense anymore. How are you going to blame the defense?
I got the power. Screw Green Bean. Damn it.
But once you get to the sausage, I feel like we're doing something.
Go Jets.
And that's the other part of it, is that people are insanely jealous of this show. This show gets the best of the best, and it does it a different way, with positivity.
He scores!
Ow, my head! No, come on.
What would you give up to see a Jets Super Bowl?
All of my friends and family.
Hit those milk thumbs, boys and girls.
Freeze frame.
Hold on to your underwear, ladies, and stand by, bitches. It's now time for Talkin' Jets with your hosts, Matt, Ryan, and Green Bean.
Welcome to the cockpit. My name's Ryan, and I'll be your pilot tonight. Boys and girls, I'm so excited to talk to you. I have got my co-pilots, Mr. Green Bean, to my this way. I got Mr. O'Leary, to my that way. Green Bean, how you doing tonight?
It's great, dude. This is a great night, everybody. We are entering the best part of the year. We got past the boring season, and now we get to go to where the Jets reign supreme, and I can't wait to cut it up with you two tonight.
O'Leary, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. The New York Jets season came to a close, and now we get into all the drama of what do we do now to fix the 2024 New York Jets.
Boys and girls, if you are just hopping in here and you want to hit that like button, it would go a long way. Zachary says we have a slight echo. Is everyone getting that right now?
Oh,
just
I'm
so
not
I
hearing it.
Well, I know you guys aren't, but the chat is an entirely different beast, unfortunately.
Indeed.
Let's see. Help us out, chat. You guys getting any feedback? No echo.
A couple no echoes.
All right, cool. Good stuff. So if you guys are just hopping in, make sure you hit that like button. If you guys want to get into our t-shirt jersey giveaway at the end of the stream, all you got to do is leave a timestamped comment down below this video, and we'll get to it for next week's video. And we're going to pull our qualifiers from last week's Talkin' Jet stream. Going to be a lot of fun. I want to chop it up. I want to talk about, I guess let's start with the Bills or the Jets and Patriots game, how we feel about that. We finally get the monkey off our back as far as the Patriots go. No more 15-game losing streak. Matt, I'll throw it to you first. How are you feeling on the Jets win over the Patriots?
Gonna be honest, it doesn't really move the needle. I thought it would move the needle more. I don't know. I'm not like mad that I'm not going to come on the show and cry and be like, oh my God, they went from pick 7 to pick 10, fold up the franchise. I'm not doing that either, but I guess my go numb really came to fruition because I don't have very many feelings on this. It's like, okay, like cool. It was nice to see Bill Belichick walk off all bundled up, you know, with the mask onto his eyeballs, the hat with the logo facing the wrong way, you know, walk off the time, maybe one more time, but it's I'm happy for the players because you could see in the post game, you know, win cam, they're all excited, going nuts. But I thought I'd be more excited about it than I am. It was very like, oh, okay, like that happened. That's cool.
What about you, Green Bean? You kind of feeling the same way?
No, I get what Matt's saying, but I have to say, I kind of prepped myself to be happy with whatever happened. Like we could have went all the way up to 6, and that would have made me really happy, right? I'd be talking people off the ledge and all that shit. But I gotta say, you know, seeing the players, like number one, seeing a nice snow game was good for me. That was good. We're in Foxborough. We haven't beat them in Foxborough since Boy Green, I think, was talking about it earlier. Since Brett Favre was the no, that
can't be right. It had to be the last game of the season. I think it's the last game of the season we haven't beaten them since Brett Favre. No, that can't be right either because I'm pretty sure we lost our last game with Favre.
But we beat them in the playoffs. Well, either way, it's been a long time, right? So it was nice to beat them in front of their fans. There was a guy who reached out to me. I just forget. I know the person was a commenter, but a viewer of the channels and everything, but I forget who it was, but they were at the game, right? So they don't get to many Jets games. They were up there. They were at the game, and they said that the Patriot fans that they were around were completely just overrun with cockiness. The Jets will never beat us here. Like, that's the way they were holding themselves. And he said, like, the whole first half, he was like seething, like, just come on. And the fact that they did beat him and he got to like see that on their faces, like, there's value in that. And the other thing that there's value in is, well, there's a couple, but seeing, I think, Matt just mentioned it, but I think Bill Belichick was genuinely upset by that loss. Like, he kind of walks over to Saleh. I mean, he's a grumpy, he's a jerk, that Bill Belichick. But he always, like, he shakes hands with Saleh. He gives him a little something. He says something. He just kind of shoulder bumped him. You know what I mean? Like, Saleh even looked surprised by the bluntness of that. I'm getting told I have a sound issue. Do I have a sound issue, everybody? That's what I'm being told. All right, whatever. Thank you, Jeremy. But I don't know what to tell you. Reverb, he said. Well, that's good. Reverb is good. I like reverb. So there's value in that too. But the other thing, Ryan, is that I really enjoyed, like, we went into that game, Brees needed like 180 and change to get to 1,000. And it made the game exciting for me. The fact that he got there was crazy to me. So, like, that was, that was fun. Like, it made the game fun. We had something to go for, 1,600, all-purpose yards. And I can't believe that we have yet more incompetence to uncover. We had no idea that our stat guy was a complete loser. Maybe he's been telling Hackett and Saleh, we're good. No, we don't need that. Maybe he's been doing that shit all year, man. Maybe he's the reason Zach sucks. Who knows? But so it was like, we were. I was completely livid. Like, they pulled me in. I could give a shit one way or the other, right? And they made me care. We were 6 yards. At the time, I thought it was 4 yards, but we ended up being 6 yards away. And we had 13 seconds and 2 timeouts to do it. We had it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We had it. So anyway, I thought, like, now that we did beat them and we did end the streak and we did piss Bill Belichick off and Brees did get, in my neighborhood, 994 is a grand, man. So I think Brees getting 1,000 yards was exciting. So yeah, I'm okay. I feel pretty good about it. I think Trevor Siemian, with his fucking 70 yards, whatever he got, he kind of, we don't have to worry about him mucking up the works, being our long-term backup to Aaron Rodgers or anything. That's positive. So, I don't know. Coming on the back end of it, I'm good. Dustin Bowen says I have an echo. Euphoria says I'm good. Weird, right?
Yeah, it's weird. Like, half the chat or half the commenters are like, Green Bean's got an echo, but the other half don't have it. I don't hear anything wrong with you on this side.
Yeah, Euphoria says, oh, wait. Yeah, a small echo. Small is good.
Sounds going to be a little bit of an issue then maybe tonight. It's stupid. Very dumb. As far as this game goes for me, I was excited to watch it because it gave me vibes of that Jets-Steelers game with Curtis Martin and Brees going off just like Curtis did. And he beat Curtis's, like, numbers. And, like, that was really cool to see. He's so good. And to see him have 1,500 all-purpose yards and 9 touchdowns, that's something, like, fresh off an ACL. I really think he deserves Comeback Player of the Year more than either Hamlin or a Flacco. Same with Tua, same with Brock Purdy. Like, I feel like there's a lot of guys that could deserve it. But Brees has been something really special to watch this year. I feel like the losing of Belichick was definitely a nice feeling. Like, I'm glad it upset him. It brought a little more validation to me. As far as, like, the draft pick goes, falling from 7, or I guess we were 8, and we fell to 10, and we could have gone from 8 to 6 with a loss. I'll be honest, I don't know if 6 does it for me, because I think, I guess we would have been in front of the Titans. So you get one of the 2 tackles most likely, realistically. But I feel like the value for me, I didn't think there was a good enough chance that those teams were going to win. Like, I didn't see the Giants beating the Eagles. I didn't see the Titans beating who did they play? They beat the Jaguars? Is that right? Yeah, that's right. I don't know. It's just it's one of those things for me that I just don't. I couldn't get myself all worked up about the same way I was with the Commanders. Like the Commanders win that one hurt because we failed from a coaching perspective in the second half of that game, and I thought it was disappointing. With this game, I felt like we kind of dominated the entire game. Given the weather and all the stuff like that, it was just a lot of fun to watch. But I'm not gonna lie, it was very kind of anticlimactic, and I definitely feel some ways that Matt feels. And I'm just happy the season's over. I'll be honest. I'm glad we're not talking about what we're going to do for the next game and all this, we couldn't fix anything in season. There was no trades. There was no players available, things of that nature. So now we get to hit the little bit of a reset button and come back in fresh for 2024. We are undefeated in this calendar year so far. Matt, you feeling good about this undefeated streak we got, 1-0?
Yeah, it's going to lead over into next season like it always does. It always bleeds over into the next year. The positive.
It just always happens. I saw Blitz Crew came in with the super chat. Let me find that real fast. Blitz comes in and says, where is it? Sorry about that. Blitz Crew.
Maybe he took it away.
No, there it is. Bam! Got it. Figured I posting the wrong links in the wrong things. Blitz Crew says, not happy or angry about the win, just is what it is. Time to see what we can get in the draft at number 10. I'm really looking forward to it. And I released a video for my 5 prospects that I think the Jets should consider at number 10, at least right now. And that's definitely going to change as the free agency period happens, as things go into, combine, Senior Bowl, all that good stuff. Guys fall and rise based on events that happen. But have you guys done any preliminary digging around as far as who you might want at number 10 right now? Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, so I am talking myself into a scenario where quarterbacks are going to go in the top 10, and you're going to see Olu Fashanu be there at 10. It's a stretch. But every single year, and Green Bean always says this, and he's so true. He's like, there's 50 guys who are absolutely going in the first round every single year, and there's no way that this guy falls out of the first round. And I'm not saying that Fashanu's falling out of the first round, but I don't know. No one thought that Jermaine Johnson was going to be there at 26. Weird stuff happens sometimes. So I'm holding out a little bit of hope, but I think most realistic is Fuaga out of Oregon State. I think that is the most realistic option, and I'm okay with it. I think he is extremely, extremely solid in the run game. He might be the best run blocker of that group. Pass pro could probably use some more work, but I just love the intensity that he plays with. I think it's going to translate well at the next level.
He's violent. When he blocks, he finishes the block. It's a lot of fun to watch him. He's going to be at the Senior Bowl. His strength of schedule was 83rd in the country. It's the worst of all the offensive tackles that I've looked at in the first round, kind of where we think the top 10 pick would be. But I would agree. I think Fuaga is going to rise up draft boards, and I think we're going to see him in play for number 10. Green Bean, what about you? Is that the same player you were looking at?
Yeah, it is. And it's the guy I want, quite frankly. I know he's a right tackle, really. And this is the kind of the scenario that we ended up. Remember 2020, our first ever draft together?
Oh, yeah.
We were, when the 11th pick came up, we had ourselves a robust conversation, and we all landed on Wirfs being the pick, partially because we thought it was safe, right? He was a safer player than Becton, but our concern was that he was really a right tackle, but that he had the athleticism to bounce over. That was the whole thing, right? I think Fuaga can do either, but he's really a right tackle, and I think he's an animal, man. And I'm just beginning my dig into him. I will say, you mentioned the Senior Bowl. Green Bean Sports Network has two people heading down to the Senior Bowl, everybody, to report for us. So we'll get all kinds of good nuggets from down there. It's funny, man. I keep vacillating back and forth. I have decided I'm not going. And then every 2 or 3 days I go, I can go. I can go.
I wish I could go. The two kids here. I can't do it, but man, I know Dom C's going. Who's the other person that's going?
Egghead
Oh, you're sending egghead for what? What kind of intel is he getting?
To bother Dom, to hold Dom C's mic.
Oh, okay. Is he reviewing pizzas down there or what?
You know it. He's gonna be like, the pizza down here is terrible in Mobile. You know. But yeah, I mean, you know, Jeremy's going. It's his first time going down there. It's an interesting thing because like it takes like a day or two, and then you kind of really feel comfortable down there. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks because I would like to go back because there's a lot of like barriers that were there last year that I would walk right by this year. You know what I mean? And like Dom and I were we were just cutting our teeth like with the interviews and stuff. And there were people that were more aggressive than us. Like, what's the guy's name that I really liked? I just can't. What's the offensive lineman with no teeth? What's his name again?
Cody Mock.
Yeah,
Mock. He was like among, if not the biggest star down there. He just stood taller than everybody. He had the most like, reporters with like cameras, like legit people were like following him around, and it was hard to get him. Let me tell you, dude, if I was there this year, because we had a couple of we had a couple short windows, I would walk right up to him. You know what I mean? But we were kind of hesitant and tentative and all that stuff. So I feel like Dom's going to do a much, much better job this year. And Jeremy, with it being his first time, I think Jeremy's a little bit more shameless than I am. You know what I mean? Like Jeremy doesn't. I think too much. It's not a positive. It can be, but it's you know what I mean? But it's like sometimes I hold back a little much. Like the consideration of the respect of and Jeremy will walk right through it. You know what I mean? Jeremy will go, hey, come here, you know? So I think that'll be good. I'm going to give those guys, so I gave Dom a wireless like interview mic last year, but I'm going to get him a better one. And I might tell Jeremy I'm getting him one and never send it and lie and say it's lost in the mail. At least I'll have one.
they could talk into it together.
Yeah.
As far as the top 10 pick for me goes, I'll go a different route just because you guys picked Fuaga. I like Fuaga. I think he's probably the betting favorite by the time everything's all said and done to go high. Right now, it seems like Latham is the highest rated tackle outside of Fashanu and Alt. I think Amarius Mims is also going to rise up boards. He's projected somewhere between 20 and 30 right now. But I would say if the Jets find a way to solve one of the tackles in free agency, like let's say they go after a Tyron Smith or a David Bakhtiari or a Trent Brown or a Jonah Williams, something like that. Doesn't matter. Left or right tackle, whatever your flavor of the week is. I really think AVT is going to move out to tackle. So at that point, they may not feel that tackle is a first round need if they've financially committed to the two tackles already. And then you would target an offensive lineman in the third round or maybe a second round if you can somehow get a second round pick. But that opens up your number 10 pick, I think, for the weapon that you're looking for. And Rome Odunze is very exciting, contested catch guy, 6'3". He's number one in the country in deep catches, number one in the country in contested catches. Very cool to see him play. But outside of that, I really like Brock Bowers. I am a big Brock Bowers fan. It's almost like hitting two birds with one stone. It's like, don't think of him as a tight end. Think of him as like a tackle wide receiver hybrid. It is so impressive to watch him crack blocks. It's like if we have one tackle that is slightly weaker, I would line him up in line, have him chip, and then go out and do whatever he's got to do. And then if he's in the run game, he's going to be able to dominate as well. I would love to draft that type of player. And I'm not usually one for tight end in the first round, particularly very early. Like I don't like what happened to Kyle Pitts and him going number 4 overall. But when I look at the draft board in front of us, I kind of see either Bowers is going to go in front of the Jets, and I think Fashanu or Alt falls to us, or I think both tackles go in front of us, and then it'll be the decision. Do you want offensive tackle 3, 4, or 5? Do you want wide receiver 3, 4, whatever? Or do you want like the number 3, 4 player overall in the draft? And I think that's what we're going to have to balance. If you guys are upset with Bowers or you haven't, you're just kind of pushing him out of the mind for tight end, I highly suggest watching him because he is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, you know what? I need to watch more, but I did. I think it might have been Dylan from Jet Nation or maybe Tigo and I like the way they said it. And then it's maybe they heard it somewhere, I don't know, but they said he's not a tight end, he's a weapon, right? So he can do so much more. And I did watch. I watched like 2 highlights and half of there was a guy out there breaking him down, like why he's special and all that shit. So I didn't get too deep, but I did. But he would be an exciting guy if we do something to address, like you were mentioning. Like, let's say we bring in 1 and/or 2, tackles. Like we bring in a Trent Brown, which is who I think we're grabbing, by the way. And I think we'll grab Bakhtiari. Trent Brown had a very low contract considering, and I don't know if he'll do that again. He was still at the tail end of that big contract he got when he left the Patriots. He was a left tackle with the Patriots.
He left the Raiders, I think is what you're talking, because he went from Patriots to, I think, Raiders to back to Patriots.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I think he was still kind of at the tail end of that contract he got from the Raiders. When he left. And that was a huge contract that he got. So his cap hit was still high, but he was only getting like, I don't know, I looked before, but like 2-3 million, whatever it was, something like that. So maybe you can get that guy for like $10 million, where, some of the guy, I think Jonah Williams being 5 years younger or so, he's going to be expensive. You know what I mean? Even though he might not be that usual premier left tackle on the free agent market, he's going to be treated as such. So I don't know. I wouldn't, if we were let's say we brought in Bakhtiari and Trent Brown or Jonah Williams and whoever, we did that, I would be okay with Brock Bowers. I mean, and I look around, I mean, I've seen him as high as the 5th overall player. Did you said you saw
I would
him
say
as the 3rd?
No. I would say, in the draft or talent wise?
In the entire draft, like talent wise,
talent-wise.
Big boards.
I've seen people refer to him as like the 4th best guy. I've seen Marvin Harrison Jr., I've seen Alt, and then it's usually some combination of one of the quarterbacks, and then Bowers is usually sitting somewhere around there. I think, let me see if I can, I don't know if I could show you guys this. You might not be able to. Actually, keep talking, and then I'll fix.
Our boy Project Prospect with Dom C is in the house, and he's saying that Bowers can also play in the slot, so he can fucking do all kinds of fun stuff. And he's like, like a lot of what I saw was like really difficult catches, man. Like whether it's contested catches or having to contort his body and then still being able to reach behind him, the passes behind him, scoop it up, turn around, break a tackle, then juke somebody. I mean, he's got like all those skill sets. He's really an exciting player. It would piss a lot of people off, I think, to draft a tight end in the top 10. But again, it's all about what we do in free agency. If Joe Douglas does a good job, and like I made a joke earlier on Richie's stream, which we missed you, by the way, Ryan.
Yeah, the whole dad thing with Becca back at work, it's tough. 2 kids.
But you did make an appearance at the end. I'm not sure if you know that.
Richie texted me. He's like, "Are you in the background?" I was like, "No, I think that's Gator. I don't own a hat like that."
Yeah, it was fucking Gator.
I'll have to take a look at it. I didn't see it.
He had your room and everything. You know what he does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we were talking about, I forget what I was saying, but we were talking about stuff.
Your joke.
What joke was it?
You said you made a joke on Richie's stream.
Did I say that, Matt?
Yeah,
he's getting too old.
I made a joke on Richie's stream about, and then Ryan, I don't know if you knew this, but you made an appearance. So I don't know where you were going because you made a lot of jokes on that show. So it could be a lot of.
I did. I announced that I was moving in with Jake.
That was a fan favorite. I like that one a lot.
Dude, it was like I made that decision 3 to 4 seconds before I said it.
It was hilarious.
I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm moving in with Jake. We got lots of exciting stuff planned. Fucking stupid. But I don't know what I was gonna say. Something about Dom, maybe? I don't know. What the fuck?
We were talking about Brock Bowers. Does that spark it for you? And you were making a joke.
Yeah, we were making the joke. It was really funny.
I don't know.
Yeah, anyway.
If you think of it, let me know. Blitzkrieg comes in and says, when have we ever gotten someone good at number 10? Being a little I don't know who it could be. So I guess this is a good, you know what? Let's rip through these next 2 super chats real quick, and then we'll talk about some of the comments made by the player that we selected at number 10. Alex comes in with super chat, says, I don't think Fashanu falling to 10 is a stretch. Chargers and Giants won't take a tackle. I don't know about that. I think the Chargers and Titans are the 2 that could take a tackle. The Giants, I think, are going to go wide receiver. I don't think they're going to go another tackle that high because they already invested 2 first-round picks, 2 top 10 picks, or top 6 picks in their 2 tackles, plus they drafted the center, whatever the hell his name was last year, in the 2nd round. So that's a lot of assets on the offensive line. But I do think Tennessee's definitely taking a tackle, and I think the Chargers could take a tackle. Matt, where do you fall on this?
I agree. I agree with a lot that you just said. Although, can I add in a wrinkle to the Titans argument, depending on who they hire? What if they go with a defensive-minded guy and they're like, I need to get a guy for my defense? That is me trying to spin it. Again, I'm not saying it's the most likely thing in the world. I'm not saying there's a 90%. We're talking maybe like 20% chance, if that this happens. But there's a route that it can happen. A lot has to break right. The Chargers could also be a team that could be in on Brock Bowers. Get a weapon for Justin Herbert. You know, I know they just spent a 1st-round pick on a wide receiver last year, so I wouldn't think that they go back to the well, but I could see another.
I was going to say they're going to lose some players. They're pretty high over the cap, and I know Keenan Allen and Mike Williams saved them about $43 million against the cap, and I think Khalil Mack is going to get cut too. He's like a $23 million savings. So there was some thought, like if the Jets were to tag and trade Bryce Huff, would trading him plus number 10 get you up to number 5 to select the tackle you want? That would be an interesting situation to have happen. I don't know if Huff carries that kind of weight to him to get you 5 picks up in the 1st round, but it would be interesting. Green Bean, what about you? What do you think about Fashanu falling to 10? Do you see the Chargers and Giants taking a tackle? Or 2 teams in front of us taking a tackle, I guess.
All right. Let me take a look here because I don't think so.
While you go look, I just want to acknowledge Kaz joining the OnlyFans. Thank you so much, Kaz. Boys and girls, hit those milk thumbs.
Scoodly doodly doo.
I like that scoodly doodly doo.
Yeah, it's good. It feels good to say.
It does. It just
scoodly doodly doo.
It sounds like Scooby Dooby Doo, but Scoodly Doodly Doo is like it's different. It's definitely different.
It's definitely different, but it's like, yeah, it does sound like Scooby Doo, but it's not. I like it. That's going to be a thing. That's our next thing.
I'll have to get a drop. Skiddly Doodly Doo.
Yeah.
Say it real clean right now, and then I can clip it for next time.
You want me to do it like the Scooby though? Like I
do it right now. Watch. I'll go like this, and I'll like. So that way, when I skim through the video, I can find it real fast. So my hands are flying around. All right, now say it.
Scoodly doodly doo. Is that good?
I love it. That'll work. We'll get a clip of that.
All right, good.
All right, you got your draft board up. What do you think of the teams in front of us?
I think. All right. All right. We got Carolina up top they gave that shit to the Bears, thankfully, to the Chicago fans. They're not taking a tackle up there, right? But they might trade back, and who knows where they go, because I could see them taking an offensive lineman. The Commanders are not taking a tag. They're taking a quarterback. New England's going to try to take a quarterback. I think New England's going to trade up with Chicago. That's what I think.
So do I.
The Cardinals, could they take a tackle? They're committed to Murray.
I would say they would take Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, if
that's
there.
his floor.
Right. But here's the thing. I honestly believe if Chicago trades back to 3, New England jumps up for a quarterback, I think that the Bears are all over Marvin Harrison. So if he's gone, what do you think? You think that they take Alt or Fashanu?
I don't know.
Who's their left tackle?
They just drafted Paris Johnson recently.
That was a 1st-round pick last year.
Okay, then. All right, then maybe not. So the Giants, they have Andrew Thomas, right? They just invested in Evan Neal, even though he, didn't come out of the gate like they would have liked. But neither did Andrew Thomas. Don't forget, guys.
Oh yeah,
right. If any team understands that it might take a second. It's the Giants, right? So I don't know. I don't think they're using first-round capital on a tackle. No, I don't. The Titans,
I think they're definitely going to do one just because their offensive line was a little bit in shambles and they just took the quarterback last year.
well, they're still recovering from Keith Carter, don't you know?
But they took Peter Skoronski in the first round last year.
That's true. Skoronski's kind of like a chess piece, though, right? He's everywhere
this year. And I think if I were to guess, most likely they would go offensive tackle, but I'm spinning they might go defense narrative here.
Manifest it.
Well, and the thing is, at that point, it's going to be the first defensive player. We're like in the past couple years, our edges and cornerbacks were kind of consuming the front end. I mean, look at 2022. The first overall pick was a defensive end. Then you had Aiden Hutchinson. Then you had Stingley. Who was the number 2 pick that year?
Well, Walker was
Hutchinson. Right.
Yeah, that was Hutchinson. Walker was the first pick.
Right. So it was Walker, Hutchinson, Stingley, Sauce.
Yep.
You know,
then Thibodeau, Neal.
Thibodeau, Neal. Yeah. So the top 5 were defense. This year, that's not going to be the case. So if you're looking for defense, you're sitting at 7. You can get the number 1 defensive player off the board, whether it's the edge I'm just, his name is escaping me. There's 2 of them, but then you got Kool-Aid, right? You know, depending on what you're looking. So they could do that. That's very realistic. The Falcons, they need all sorts of stuff. By the way, I want to point out that Arthur Smith was one of the guys that a lot of Jets fans had as like their number 1 coaching candidate when we hired Saleh. And I just want to point out that, you know, that guy sucked. He was 7 wins every season. The guy couldn't get over 500. So thank God we got Saleh.
See, that's what happens when you don't have a good backup quarterback and you roll the dice on Heineke and you have, a 3rd-round Ritter in there.
Yeah,
at least Douglas got Rodgers. That's the only – if we rolled into the season with Zach Wilson, Douglas and Saleh would be gone. There's no way. Rodgers saved their skin.
Yeah, dude. I mean, 100%. But then again, like if they didn't go Rodgers and they went some other direction, maybe that guy could have, you know, who knows? Because Zach, you know, whatever. We don't have to do with that whole thing, but I think Arthur Smith kind of got a raw deal. And then at the end, you saw, I mean, he just kind of put a big fat exclamation point on the season by telling that coach to fuck himself at the end of the.
What did you guys think of that? With Jameis changing the play at the. So I would say I don't like that they were in victory formation because that's an injury risk. That's hey, you're giving up, you know, we're going to take our foot off the gas. It's almost like defensive players like pushing through the victory formation to try and get like a fumble to happen.
No, I'm with you, Ryan. I think if they lined up and ran a play and got into the end zone and Arthur Smith was bitching about them running up the score, I'd say, F off, man. Like, just make it stop. But I think the differentiation.
Yeah, it was good. No, stick with it.
Whatever. Yeah, is that they were in victory formation. Like, that I think is cheap.
Yeah, I was saying I love that Arthur Smith did that. That's what
the fire. Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah. No, I like that he walked up to him and said, "That's some bullshit, bro. What do what's your problem?" And what the guy said, "That's understandable."
I mean, it caught him off guard too. He's probably telling him like, "Yeah, I didn't call it. It wasn't me. I don't know what happened." Which
a crazy offensive coordinator.
I don't know how they didn't fire or cut Jameis immediately. I know he's on an expiring contract. His contract's going to void. But like, if you send a player in there to go victory formation and they deliberately go against you, like you got to send a statement move. I feel like Dennis Allen like is weak with that. I guess backing. He didn't back anyone. He was upset about it. I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, so let me just complete. So Atlanta would so if there are 2 quarterbacks off the board at that point, right? Because the Giants could go quarterback. Everybody they could.
They could.
I mean, the whole.
I think they go quarterback back of the first. They have 2 second-round picks. I could see them jumping up to get like a Penix or something like that. If he's falling, it depends where he ends up.
Yeah, So who knows, right? So let's say that they don't, right? Let's say that they go with another position or whatever. So we still have Tennessee.
So Tennessee, we were talking tackle. We think. With Atlanta. Atlanta, I think, is a prime candidate to get Kirk Cousins or trade 43 overall for Justin Fields. Those would be the two things I kind of see them doing. But if Jaden Daniels were to fall to 8, like they may not make the trade for a quarterback. Like if they don't get Cousins initially in free agency, they might wait on a Fields trade until seeing who's at number 8. I think that's a possibility. Otherwise, I think they go defense.
Yeah, well, you know what, though? In my scenario, the Bears didn't take a quarterback because they're keeping Fields, right?
No. I'm saying Atlanta.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So okay. So they don't get Cousins. They could go quarterback.
Yeah, we're confusing me. Not you, we.
Yeah.
But so, and it looks like I just looked at two sites too. They're saying that the Falcons' #1 need, they're going to go edge.
Yeah, I see Dallas Turner as the top guy.
Yep. So which would make sense, right? #1 defensive player on the board. So you go and get your edge rusher. That's fine. So then if Chicago traded back, they're keeping Justin Fields and they take Marvin Harrison. That's where a tackle is going, in my opinion.
I agree. I think if that
would leave one in that scenario, one of the two.
No.
Walton Fashanu. Yeah.
No, because we said Tennessee's taking a tackle.
No, I said Tennessee is doing something better than that. Oh, yes, they're taking a tackle.
We'd be. I think realistically, I think we're looking at tackle 3. Whoever that winds up being, whether it be
so
Latham.
painful. And that's where
because that's the left tackle. They're the only 2 left tackles at the top of this class, and I think Mims could shift over. I think Latham's probably the least likely to shift over to right tackle or to the left tackle.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, though, Ryan. We have a lot of offseason left, and we know how this goes, right? Remember, in 2020, Andrew Thomas ended the season as the consensus #1 tackle. And then all through the offseason, it was like he moved all the way back to behind Josh Jones and shit. You know what I mean? But then he ended up being the #1 tackle. But the truth is that teams fall in love with all sorts of players. So somebody could fall in love with the Mims. Somebody could fall in love with a Latham that he's, the strongest player in the entire draft. You see his bottom, from the waist down. I mean, he's as thick gets. His ass, his thighs, his calves.
I was going to say, Jet fans have like a complex right now with big tackles. They're like Becton scared him away from Latham, I think.
Yeah,
because he's a pretty big dude. I mean, I think he's like 20 pounds lighter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I would say he's not as
30
big
pounds
as
lighter.
Becton, no.
He's an inch shorter too. They're saying 6'6", 333. Becton was 6'7", 360, 370.
Yeah, 367 at the time. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, I guess the point I'm making is that there's a chance. There is a realistic path to getting one of them, but I agree with you. I think it's far-fetched, and we're more than likely looking at tackle 3.
Tankathon right now, they have Bowers going to the Chargers at 5, and they have Alt falling to 10. If that's right,
Dude,
I'd be tickled pink.
Dream scenario.
Tickled pink.
Imagine Joe Douglas takes like Romo Dunes.
I would cry if Alt's on the board. If Alt or Fashanu are there and we take anyone other than them, I'm going to be kind of upset. Those are the only 2 players I have ahead of everyone else. Yeah, I would say my board is Alt, Fashanu, and it'll change, I'm sure, but Alt, Fashanu, Bowers, O'Dunes. Then I'm getting to like the Fawaga, Latham, Mims category. But I'd even consider trading down. Like I'm okay missing out on Fawaga and getting a 2nd round pick, sliding back 5 to 10 picks or something, and taking another tackle, down that way.
That one I disagree with on. I think I like him enough to take him there at 10. I think even if it is on the right side, I think he's good enough that that's a guy I want on my offensive line.
Who, Fawaga?
Yeah.
I agree. He's my number 3 currently. I agree. And I would have no problem taking him.
Yeah, I could see him being the selection at that spot. Sawyer comes in and says, might be a hot take, but if any of the top 3 wide receivers are there at 10, we need to take them, even trade up. These wide receivers in past years have been known to adjust more quickly than recent tackles. So I agree, Sawyer, but I'm not necessarily on the wide receiver bandwagon. I could. Honestly, O'Dunes is the 3rd receiver, right? So if you're saying Neighbors, O'Dunes, and Marvin Harrison Jr., one of those 3. Bowers is the other option. I think Bowers and O'Dunes are the 2 guys that I'm looking at. and saying if they're there and we have solved tackle in some capacity. Green Bean mentioned, getting Bakhtiari and Trent Brown, and then you have AVT as the emergency guy that you can kind of shift around. That's a situation where I think you go wide receiver or tight end in the first round. I think that's when you would pass on a Fuaga, Latham, a Mims, something along those lines. Matt, what about you? Do you think could you see wide receiver at 10, or are you kind of like more focused on the offensive line since that seemed to be our biggest problem?
No, absolutely. I think it's totally in play. We have to see what happens in free agency, right? That could totally change the conversation that we're talking about. I think a Brown would be in play potentially. I do think that, the Bengals tackle, Jonah Williams, could be someone who maybe is in play. I know you're really on this one with Bakhtiari. I don't agree, not just because I don't personally want him, but he is.
Green Bean brought that one up, not me. I brought Bakhtiari up. Yeah, you brought Bakhtiari up tonight, not me.
He's just been so against. He's been so against the MetLife Stadium turf, and he sat out a game this year in Atlanta due to turf. So I don't think he would sign up to play half his seasons there. Even though he's friends with Rodgers and the Jets need a tackle, I get that, but I don't think he would sign with a team that he's talked so much shit about their stadium with.
Let's say we get a Trent Brown and he can play left tackle, right tackle, and they've determined AVT is one of the tackles. Are you still drafting a tackle and moving AVT inside, or would you prefer to go with a wide receiver or tight end possibly at the top of the draft?
I would be much more open to going with one of the receivers or Bowers at that point then.
Green Bean, what about you? Top 3 wide receivers. What would have to happen for you to consider, the top 3?
Well, let me just make it clear. I only brought Bakhtiari in because he's like in the ether. I was just using him as an example. Okay. I wasn't saying I hope the Jets. Okay.
I was just protecting I shouldn't say protecting myself, but Matt said, I know you're on this Bakhtiari train, Ryan. I was like, hold on. Yeah. I'm not on it. I just said I think it's gonna happen.
And that's what I'm doing now. Right, exactly. We want to make sure we're clear. Well, you mean about the first 3 wide receivers?
So it's Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze.
Yeah. Well, right. You got Rome Odunze, and then there's the 𝐒𝐮𝐞𝐫𝐢𝐻 fans. So he can be up there, but I don't think I could see a realistic way that we do that. Again, it depends on what we do in free agency. I think that there is no way that they can't see offensive line as the number 1 priority. I know Saleh brought up weapons. I think it was Saleh. Maybe it was Joe Douglas.
I think all of them brought it up.
The weapons to go alongside of Garrett Wilson. Get him a partner, so to speak. So I mean, maybe it's a top priority, and they just used a top 10 pick on a wide receiver 2 years ago. Joe Douglas has, he's also used high picks on wide receivers before. So I could see, 2 second-round picks and a first-round pick on wide receivers. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility. But I think offensive line has to be the priority. If we can't fix it, I think the free agent class this year has stronger, at least as it sits now, has stronger wide receiver possibilities than offensive tackle possibilities, legitimately. So if you could take care of wide receiver, at least get one in here. I do like the idea. I saw Glenn Naughton from Jet Nation was talking about it on Twitter, the idea of Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I would love him, not as the number 2, but like to bring in, kind of raise the the quality of the overall group. And if you guys remember, Donovan Peoples-Jones was a guy I was pounding the table, figuratively speaking.
Is he one of the 6'5" guys, 6'4", 6'5" guys? Is he a bigger dude?
You know what? Yeah, hold on.
I don't remember his profile.
Well, I
remember you liking him, Green Bean, though. You were pounding the table for him. That was the Bryce Hall draft?
Yeah, that was 2020. You're right. So and he made it all the way to the 6th.
I remember.
I couldn't believe that we were in town. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like, why are we not taking this? How is he sliding like this? He's 6'2", Ryan. 6'2", 212. But he's a kind of guy, like, he's just quality. He's solid, right? He can have those games where he does really well. But overall, he's just a solid wide receiver, very dependable. I'd love to see him brought in. So, like, let's say they go out and they get a T. Higgins and they get a Donovan Peoples-Jones. Not that there's still not work to do in the wide receiver core. You use your fourth on a wide receiver kind of a thing. But that would totally take any pressure off of the consideration of wide receiver with your top overall pick. Because again, as we sit right now, we pick at 10 and then we don't pick. We wait 62 picks, which essentially is 2 full rounds, man. Essentially, right? We got to wait a long time for our next pick. So there's a lot of guys that are going to be gone. So you got to go for, I know it's best player available. I get it, but you got to take best player available at need. And when that tier is like, you got Romo Dunes and Keon Coleman and Fuaga, and like when they're all kind of in that tier, you go with the need. And I think tackle has to be looked at as a need. So I find it difficult to believe. Here's what I really want to happen. Oh, this was the joke I made, everybody, before. Remember?
Comes back around. Don't forget.
Yeah. And it's not really a joke, but it's like, it's an extreme scenario. If we do trade Bryce Huff,
$24 million franchise tag, by the way.
Yeah, who cares? But there's going to be interest. The people are going to want him, especially.
My concern is Huff says, I'm not signing an extension. If he says, I'm not signing an extension with anyone and he wants the tag, like Kirk Cousins wanted the tag, then we're screwed.
Yeah, but he's not going to do that. If somebody says,
I don't know.
You never know what can happen, dude. You never know what can happen.
He just gambled on himself with the second round tender, though.
Yeah, but the franchise tag is
$24 million is life-changing money.
That's what I'm saying. $24 million is a ton of money. I think he would gamble on that.
I know, man, but you can't base your decisions on fear. You got to base it on educated decisions, right? You got to say, okay, there's about 5 to 6 teams that are legitimately interested in him. One of those teams is going to say, hey, we'll give you $19 million a year for 4 years. He's taken that. You know what I mean? He's, as far as his end, he's going to be delighted with that. He hasn't made more than $5 million yet, and up until this year, he was on an undrafted free agent contract. So he's going to take it. He's not going to be the obstacle, and then you just get a second round pick for what could be considered an elite pass rusher. So and that's one of those things. Like, sure, teams can use their second round pick on a pass rusher, but they don't know what the hell he's going to be. Bryce Huff, you know what he is. He's a proven commodity, and he's still on the ascend. And like he's saying, he wants to go to a place that'll use him full time. If a team believes he can be full time, then they haven't even scratched the surface of his potential yet. You know what I mean? So there's a lot there. Huff is going to be gone. So here's the scenario. If you get the second round pick, you take your tackle at 10. Let's say Alt slips, Fashanu slips, or you take Fuaga, right? You get one of those 3 guys. And then you get into the second, and you take one, you take your 4th round pick like Joe Douglas likes to do, or your 5th, and you hop up into the back end of the 1st, and then you grab, you ready for this, Ryan? Lad motherfucking McConkey.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
That's the guy we need. And so you get your tackle, you already got T. Higgins, you got some Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then you inject Lad McConkey into this mix, and then you're looking at Brownlees and Gibsons of the world. They're way on the back end of this bad boy. You know what I mean? Gibson works on special teams. Irv Charles, I believe, has really worked himself into an active roster spot, predominantly on special teams. But we know he can play wide receiver if you need to. He's wide receiver 6. Brownlee's wide receiver 5. Then you got McConkey, Jones, Higgins, Wilson. Now we're talking with Joe Alter, Fuaga at left tackle. We got a right tackle somewhere. Carter Warren's coming out of the box. Whatever it is. Now we're talking. See it?
Sneakers the Boots comes in and says, fire Carter, bring in Munchak. I'm terrified that we go for broke and are left stranded with our pants down after Aaron Rodgers. I can't do another rebuild. So Rodgers kind of acknowledged the last 2 days or so They're all on the hot seat, him included. He has to come back and he has to show that he's, able to play again. Douglas and Saleh have to win games. So not changing Keith Carter feels like a kid just putting his hand on the stove and saying, it's hot, and taking it up and saying, what if I do it again? Like, that's what it feels like. It also feels like a damning indictment on Zach Wilson. Like, this whole regime says, okay, we don't need to change anything with the exception of Zach Wilson, and this team's going to be that much better. Like, we can overcome all the hurdles that were on offense because of what we have available to us to bring into the team and getting Zach Wilson out of here. That's sort of how I read it with Keith Carter. Matt, what did you think about Carter still coming back?
I think it's a joke. I don't think he did anything to earn himself a job for next year. And I know you're going to get the injuries. He plays a factor in those injuries because of how he runs those practices. I mean, Taylor Lewan said it as much in the offseason this past year, where he felt like veterans were getting banged up as the year would go on because of how hard they ran the practices, and they didn't get the rest that they felt they needed. And guess what? Offensive line was insanely injured here as well. And I really wish I made my peace with Nathaniel Hackett coming back. I don't agree with it, but I made my peace with it. I wish they were willing to change up some of these positional coaches because I think running back the same staff is a mistake.
Green Bean, what about you? You think Carter coming back is a mistake?
Well, let me say this. I thought that he would be the guy to fall on the sword, for sure. Mm-hmm. Right or wrong, I thought he was going to do that. I didn't love the job he did, but we don't know what his direction was with, Nathaniel Hackett. Like, I'm a big believer. Like, all right, if you're down, we're on our, at right around the 8th offensive line, alignment, and they're having difficulty picking up the stunts and the communication is off. I'm a big believer with going, you know what? Simplify this. Clearly, Xavier Newman and Phil Hansen, or whatever the hell his name is, they're having difficulty. They're not ready for this, yet we're in a game against the Miami Dolphins nonetheless. It's time to go man. It's time to go straight up power blocking scheme. But I don't think Hackett has the chops to do that. So, what impact Keith Carter has, I'm not sure. But so I think he probably should have been fired. And I think, what's his name? The passing game coordinator. I always forget this guy's name. Downing, right? Thank you. I think that they probably should have gone. But here, I think here's the positive of it. And I think this is probably what the Jets are thinking. We're trying to build something here, and you can't build something starting over every year. You know what I mean? So there's more value in, having a year of mistakes, whether that's with a player or a coach, and kind of learning from that, already taking the lumps, so to speak, rather than bringing somebody else in here to take the lumps all over again. Get to know the guys, see what the strengths are, and blah, 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 blah. So I think they're just like, hey, let's run it back. And I think Boy Green said it in our show earlier on Jets Media. They're all going to get their heads chopped off next year if they suck. So, why not just run it back? Why start? Even for their sake, for Saleh's sake, for Hackett's sake, for Ulbricht's sake, why start and bring in and develop a new positional coach? We already got it with this guy, right or wrong, ups and downs, just let's run it back. So I get that logic. You know what I mean? I can see the value there. Whether I agree is a different story, but I can see it.
We've got NY Jets 24 coming in saying, Matt, Ryan, Green Bean, Jets need an impact starter at the 10 pick. All of the players you are discussing at offensive tackle, wide receiver, tight end, who can come in and contribute immediately. Love you guys. So that's where the discussion of tight end and wide receiver becomes a little more, maybe convincing or enticing, because tackle prospects, like we've seen with the Giants, with Andrew Thomas and with Evan Neal, they don't necessarily play their best immediately. And if you think that Rodgers only has 1 year, maybe you're more inclined to go with someone that can definitely help you this year. Although I would argue last year we thought the same thing, and they did not do that. And they took someone that displaced someone that was a win now player in Bryce Huff when you have Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know. Maybe if they're thinking Rodgers is definitely here 2 years, maybe they're fine with the offensive lineman or just building the line out in general. But I like the quickness in which a wide receiver or a tight end could impact the game, like a Laporta. Like, we got that level of impact. Now you're talking an elite weapon in Breece Hall, an elite weapon at tight end, an elite weapon at wide receiver in Garrett Wilson, and that has worked out well for the Chiefs. I mean, Kansas City had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. You see out in the 49ers, for example, Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, and I mean, they got a plethora of wide receivers as well. But I think having a playmaker at the tight end position in a win now type mode, I would agree with. So, and I would say the other three tackles might need a little bit more. I shouldn't even say the other three. Even Alton Fashanu might be a little bit slower to the jump. I just like them because they're left tackles already. Matt, any thought to maybe having a slower impact on our number 10 overall pick? I mean, I guess the argument could be, can the tackle that you draft figure it out over the course of the year and be ready for the playoffs at that point? Because that's really, maybe the most critical part.
Well, I mean, I think we've seen rookie tackles play. Like, we forget Tristan Wirfs was the offensive tackle of the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020. Like,
and a Pro Bowl quarterback can make an offensive line look good too, to your point.
Yeah. Exactly. So I wouldn't be scared off because it might take offensive linemen a little bit longer to develop, which is, it's true. That is absolutely something that is true, but that doesn't mean that they can't be impactful pieces in year one.
Greenby, what about you? You think there might be some hesitancy to bring in a tackle because it might take a little bit longer to develop them rather than a wide receiver or tight end?
You mean through the draft?
Yeah, at number 10. Like, if we're thinking we need an impact player right now.
Well, that's the whole thing with blue chips, right? That's why, like, when the people who were talking about you don't root for your team to lose or beating the Patriots or ending the streak, all those things, technically speaking, it's a meaningless game, right? So, like, this is the area where the tanksters have a lot of weight to their argument, which is, blue chip. Like, yes, there are first round grades on X amount of players, right? And then you can get a great player at pick 32, sure. But the blue chippers, which is the guy, when they say blue chips, what they're really talking about are guys that are going to come in and transition from the college level to the pro level without missing a beat. That's the projection. They're going to come in and they're going to be impact players immediately. As you start to creep away from the top 5, you creep away from the potential of getting an honest to goodness blue chip player. So, like, let's say an Alt slips back or a Fashanu slips back at the tackle position. I don't think there's a concern in the world with those guys. Now, with the Fuagas, the Mims, the Lathams of the world, I think there's a little bit more question mark there. And then we saw last year, I mean, there was that whole kind of that narrative about Aaron Rodgers doesn't want a rookie blocking for him, right? And we said, at least I did. I said, that's fucking bullshit. He just wants the best guy in front of him. And we saw, man, McGovern started over Tippmann until he was injured. And then we saw Tippmann get a shot there. So maybe there's credence to that. Maybe there's some relevance to that argument. So I don't know. Maybe he would be concerned. But I tell you what, if he was real comfortable with Dwayne Brown and shit last year, Dwayne Brown got that Achilles popped. So maybe he's going to be, maybe I'm going to reassess my opinion of the young studs. So I don't know. I think there's clearly a question mark there. But dude, I mean, we've had vets in here. We've had all kinds of guys in here. I could make the argument that the young guys have played better than the older guys. At least on the outside. I mean, even last year, Max Mitchell had a rough year this year, but last year when he played, he looked like we had something there. So, the last 2 years, I think the case could be made that the young guys have done a better job than the vets we've had on the roster. So I don't know. I think it goes both ways with that, and it just depends on the talent level that you get, the character of the player. And all that, their work ethic, things like that. I don't know. I think it could definitely be a concern, but it could also be exactly what you need.
Douglas comes in, says, good evening, gentlemen. Any preference for this year's Super Bowl matchup? I want Browns versus Lions, two storied original NFL franchises that haven't won crap since the merger. So there's part of me that wants to see the Browns get it because there's almost this Carson Wentz mentality that kind of went into Flacco winning the Super Bowl when Watson goes down, where Foles wins the Super Bowl when Wentz went down, and then it kind of crippled Wentz. I wouldn't mind it crippling Watson. I really don't like him at all. But I would prefer to see Lamar get his Super Bowl. I would like to see Baltimore, and I would like to see San Francisco. I would say one of those two. I like Lamar getting a ring, and I like Shanahan getting a ring. I think both of them deserve one. I think they were, coaching and playing at the highest levels in this league right now. And I'm sure you guys have heard the Super Bowl logo for the last 2 years has been dictating sort of the Super Bowl matchup. And this year it's red and purple, and the 2-1 seeds are the 49ers and the Baltimore Ravens. So maybe that's where it's headed. Matt, your thoughts?
I like that conspiracy theory. That's a good one. I'm going to go 49ers. They're my preseason pick to come out of the NFC. So that one I'm sticking with. Unfortunately, Joe Burrow got hurt, so the Bengals one this is not going to hold true. I don't know who I'm going to have come out of the AFC yet. I feel like it's going to be a random. I don't think it's going to be the 1 seed. I don't think it's going to be the Chiefs. So I think it's going to be a team someone doesn't expect.
I think the Browns are a good pick. I think it's Baltimore and the Browns are the two that I'm keeping an eye on. I think Miami's going to get their doors blown off. I think
what the weather is in Kansas City for this game?
15 degrees.
Well, the feels like temperature is negative. This is a Miami going to a cold below freezing. Well below freezing.
I think they're 0-7 or 0-8 in sub 40-degree weather.
Yeah, I'm hammering the Chiefs this week.
So I think that the Browns are interesting. They're playing Baltimore in the first round, or I guess not the first round. Baltimore's got the bye. Who are the Browns playing? Browns are playing the Texans.
Bad matchup for Houston, by the way.
Yeah, not great. My favorite matchup of the playoffs, though, is definitely Rams at Lions. I like the Lions a lot. I would love to see the Lions get in it, but that's my favorite game that I'm going to be able to watch, I think. Outside of that, Buffalo, if they get hot enough, I don't know if they have the star power anymore to overcome a Baltimore-type team. I don't know. It feels Baltimore and San Francisco. Greenby, what about you? What are you thinking about the Super Bowl matchup?
I think that the Ravens earned it, and I think that they should get it. And out of the shitty teams that I hate in the bracket, my wife's from Baltimore, and, there's that. I'll probably go that way. As long as the Bills and Dolphins lose week 1, which I don't see the Bills losing week 1, but I do see the Dolphins having a realistic possibility of losing. That's enough for me. 1 a week is good for me. I don't know. I think it's probably going to be Ravens-Niners. We'll get a repeat of that one. That's what I'm looking at. The Browns, I would puke, which makes me think that's exactly what's going to happen. The Lions, I'm fine with. You know what I mean? Like, dude, they've earned it, and they're, I know Detroit fans. I've gone to a Detroit game back in the Pontiac Dome years ago on Thanksgiving, and they were great to me. And I was there in my Boomer Esiason jersey at the time. They were playing the Bills, so I was legitimately rooting for the Giants. For the Lions. And they were delightful. The whole place, from the parking lot to the seats and everywhere in between, they were gracious, friendly. They loved to talk football. Like, it was good. And I was probably 20 years old at the time. So they were cool to me, man. I got nothing but love for Detroit. There are brothers in pain, so to speak. But the Browns, they can fuck themselves, and I don't want them to. I want them out. I want Joe Flacco to throw 104 yards in a big clunker, 3 picks. That's what I want. That would make me. I want Elijah Moore to fumble. That's the stuff I want, which means nothing's happening that way. I want you to know that. But I would love to see the Texans trounce the Browns.
So Radovan and Blitzkrieg, I'll get to your super chats in just a second. Kevin, thank you so much for the 20 spot. Greatly appreciated. He says, I don't quite understand the fascination the Jets brass has with Davante Adams. The offensive line is the bread and butter of the team's offense. If the O-line can't block, it does not matter who the skill position players are. So I find it harder and harder to believe that Davante Adams is actually going to be a New York Jet. Like it seems like he's an Antonio Pierce guy. If the Raiders decide they want to hold on to Antonio Pierce rather than go after a Jim Harbaugh, I think Harbaugh is definitely coming to the NFL. It's just a matter of if he chooses the Raiders or the Chargers. I think those are the two teams that are in play for him. Raiders having the inside track. And would Davante want to play for Harbaugh, or is he looking to move at that point? Because he'd probably have to rework his contract, or they'd have to agree to a trade post June 1st, but we'd have to know about that before the draft. And I don't know how that would really work in terms of things. It's a massive cap hit. It's a $40 million dead cap hit if he's moved prior to June 1st. As far as the traded for contract, it's not too bad. And I understand why the Jets brass is infatuated with him. It's because they're infatuated with Aaron Rodgers, and everything that Aaron Rodgers wants, Aaron Rodgers has gotten so far. So like that's where it comes from. I don't know. I'm not high on the Davante Adams, trade market. But if guys start getting franchise tag, like let's say Higgins is franchised, Evans is franchised, and then Pittman is franchised, and now you start really going down the list. You're like, okay, did Keenan Allen get cut? Do you feel comfortable with him on a 1 or 2 year deal? Do you feel all right about Darnell Mooney or maybe a Hollywood Brown or something like that? I don't know. It changes my feelings towards the Davante trade. And if you can get him for a 2025 second, I think that's what I would do. I just don't know if that's going to be on the table with how big of a dead cap hit it's going to wind up being for the Raiders. Matt, your thoughts?
Well, I understand the offensive line thing, but the Jets should be able to add a wide receiver and also fix the offense. It shouldn't be one or the other is the conversation. Like, because they're in on Davante Adams, now they're just going to ignore the offensive line. Well, they still have a first-round pick. They have other free agency. It's $16 million against the cap for Davante in this upcoming year. And I think he is the best available wide receiver. Now, if you want to take into account and say maybe Mike Evans or T. Higgins because they don't cost any draft capital, okay, that's a conversation that I'm willing to have. Sure, that's definitely part of it. But, man, I mean, in a terrible, terrible offense, he still put up 1,100 yards at 31 years old. I don't think we've seen the fall off from him, and he has unbelievable chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. I would be for it, especially if it's going to take the 3rd round pick this year and maybe another day 2 pick next year. I would do that.
Oh man, if Ridley didn't get franchise tagged, like at the end, I really like Calvin Ridley. I wanted to trade for him back when he was in Atlanta before he got suspended. That's another player to maybe keep an eye on, unless he gets the tag. Green Bean, what about you? What do you think about Davante Adams?
Well, Boy Green's in the chat, and what's up, Paul? And so he said earlier that he believes the Jets are going to get Davante Adams for, I think he said half a bag of chips, and then he said a half-eaten Snickers bar because of the age and the money and all that. So I would sign on for a half-eaten Snickers bar for Davante Adams. I would have no issue with that.
I don't think the Raiders would, though. That's a massive dead cap hit for them. It's huge.
Well, I mean, they're going to pay it one way or the other. At least this way they get the Snickers bar.
There, I guess.
don't know. I mean, I think it's. I don't know why anybody. Like, I see what Kevin's saying. You don't understand the fascination with Davante Adams. I don't understand how you couldn't be excited if that was to happen. Like, the truth is we talk all the time about Woody's money and cap, and they always figure it out, dude. Like, it's beyond us, unless you're an accountant, you're a CPA or some. Maybe you can tell me a little bit more, but I'm not that. So every year when I get, but the cap, dude, they always figure it out.
Saints have been like 75 million to 90 million over the cap every friggin' year.
For 5 years. Remember that year they were 120 million over the cap? They lost no one. So it's like, what? It's all smoke and mirrors. And if you're smart enough, you can do that. And the Jets have shown that we can do that. Like, there was a lot of manipulation last year. Now we haven't seen it long enough to when it comes home to roost, if it does. But I think at the end of anything, you're always going to pay the piper, at least to some degree, always. But if you can just continually push, who cares? Then just do it. So, think about adding Davante Adams and him not being the only wide receiver here. So, if you bring Davante Adams to pair with Garrett Wilson, who's a young Davante Adams in many ways, and and then you bring in a Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then you use your 4th round pick on a young, talented yet raw wide receiver, and then you still got the Gip and those guys. I think that's exciting as hell. I mean, why? If they can do it, then do it. As long as you're not giving up, like you brought up a couple weeks ago, Brian. Brian. That's the first time I've ever done that. Hey, Brian, how you doing, buddy?
I called you Green Bay for like the entire offseason.
It was hard not to. I did it. I called myself Green Bay. But yeah, so like Brian said a couple weeks ago, as long as we're not giving up like next year's 1st or 2nd, you know what I mean? Like something really premium for Davante Adams. Like we're paying whatever we got to pay and we're giving up next year's assets, premium assets, then I'm fine with it, man. If you can make something happen and you take something off their books, I think, yeah, sure. Dude, bringing on Davante Adams. Don't forget, Aaron Rodgers is going to be here 1 or 2 more years. Fucking give him his buddy. Give him the guy that he had like you said, the high level of chemistry with, alongside of Garrett Wilson and Conklin and Ruckert and Breece Hall and Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'm going to keep saying that, by the way. I want to speak it into the existence.
It's such a fun name to say, too.
I love his name.
It's so
Donovan Peoples-Jones. It's not just Donovan Jones. Peoples.
No, there's certain names that just roll off the tongue. That's one that like is very satisfying to say. I feel like Fuaga's Fuaga.
I mean, who has a problem with that? Did you hate Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker?
Nope.
Did you hate Wayne Corbett and Keyshawn Johnson? Did we hate Al Toon and Wesley Walker? By the way, we had Brandon or Bray and Santonio Holmes. Did we hate that? You know what I mean? We loved it. Bring them on.
I think it's gonna be interesting. It almost could be like, what would happen? It feels like it would be a year and a half after we started talking about the Davante rumors, because it started last year. But what about an in-season trade? Like a trade deadline type move where like the Raiders are not doing well. Now their cap hit is not as crazy, and they might say, hey, we're just going to, pull the plug at that point. And for the Jets, Davante already knows our offense. He knows the offensive coordinator. He was in it for a bunch of years. Like, could you see an in-season trade, or do you think this has to happen like in the offseason? Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
I'm going to say in the offseason, because I don't think the Jets could afford to go into the season and have major question marks at the wide receiver spot. Like if they're in a position to where they need to be trading for Davante Adams 9 games into their season, I think that's a big issue.
It might be one of those situations though where it could be like, let's just add another weapon, or someone gets hurt. Because his contract is 1 year, $17.5 million. So at that point, you'd only be paying about $10 million for him for the remainder of the season. And it could be like, hey, we're not going to extend him right now, because if Rodgers and this thing doesn't work out, we're going to reset everything anyway. I don't know what the Raiders would necessarily think of that. Green Bean, could you see an in-season trade possibly?
The only problem I have with that is like we're kind of betting on fantasy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, number one, the Raiders got to be in trouble, right? They got to be willing to get rid of him. Number two.
Well, it would be assuming that like they are not trading him like in the offseason, I guess, or we're not willing to give up enough to get him.
Right. So to speak to that, I'd hate to see them bet on that. Like, I'd rather get
absolutely.
Higgins. You know what I mean?
I would not. I wouldn't wait for Adams. I would definitely address it first and foremost.
Yeah, right. So as long as we have, like, let's say hypothetically, the Jets go get T. Higgins, we draft somebody in the 4th. Let me see who's there in the 4th round, buddy. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. I'm gonna look at.
Take a look.
Well, the 4th round is what picks, Matt? Like you got 70 to 100.
It's like 160 roughly.
So 160. All right, here's what we got in that range. Where at least the site I opened, which is Draft Tech, which is my favorite, by the way.
Me too.
You got the J. Michael Sturdivant from UCLA, Jamari Thrash out of Louisville, Isaiah Williams out of Illinois, Jordan Whittington. So maybe we get good old Jordan Whittington, 6'1", 205 in the 4th. So we got Garrett Wilson, you got T. Higgins, and you got Jordan Whittington and the Gip. And then right around late February, Davante Adams becomes available and they're like, hey, dude, we're willing to give him away for that Snickers bar that Boy Green was talking about, I would do that. I have no problem with too much talent. You know, that whole thing, like we get all concerned. Remember at the beginning of the year, people are going to be upset that we only have one ball and so many mouths to feed. Fuck that. I don't care. Just give me the players, man. And like we'll figure out the mouths to feed thing later when people aren't injured and sucking and all those things. You know, just give me the players. I would do that, but I would want to see us bring on a Mike Evans, a T. Higgins, you know, somebody that's a quality, you know, borderline number one wide receiver themselves to go along with Garrett Wilson. I want studs, man. You know, I'm tired of like making do. We have Lazard, so he's going to be here. You know, so he's part of the mix. Cobb will not be here. I hope.
I would like to believe that like Gibson takes over that role. I don't really want to have Cobb back. I don't want him to take up the roster spot, really. Real quick, Trent Brown last year, it says Trent Brown signed a 2-year contract with New England Patriots worth $11.9 million base value with $4.5 million available in incentives. So it was really like basically a 1-year deal for $14-15 million, with the second year being a void year to spread out some of that cap hit. So you're looking at, you know, let's call it 1 year, $15 million maybe for him, or somewhere around that ballpark. And I like the idea of pulling away someone that's flexible from a division rival to our team. The same way Miami's been taking our players down to them. I think it's a good move.
Yeah, so that was an extension, huh? I thought that was the tail end of the.
That was a new deal.
Okay,
yeah. So his,
and I missed that.
Yeah. So his history. Let's see. He was with the Raiders in 2019. His contract expired in 2021, and then he renegotiated 2022, and then had the 2023 deal for this year in some capacity. Radovan comes in with a super chat. Says, not to be negative, but do you think retaining Carter and Hackett hamstrings our Super Bowl chances? Green bean for GM. Yes. I don't like Hackett. I don't like Carter. In some capacity, I think they are a negative more than they are a positive, unless your idea is just that, you know, since Rodgers is here and those guys are just part of the equation, you know, it's just a necessary evil. Matt, you think Carter and Hackett hamstring the Super Bowl potential?
I think it could. That's definitely a concern going into next year. I don't think anyone should be going in and be like, oh my God, optimism, baby. Nathaniel Hackett and Keith Carter are coming back. It's holy shit. I hope they don't blow it for us.
Blitzkrieg comes in, says, watching our offensive line this year, Aaron may be okay with gambling on a rookie offensive lineman. Did Becton and Mitchell regress under Keith Carter? So that's my biggest issue, right? Like, if you're not changing the offensive line coach and everything's staying exactly the same as it was this year, like, I don't see how Becton improves. I don't see how Tomlinson improves. Like, it felt like they were just confused on every stunt. Not just those two, everyone across the offensive line. Like, I think there's far too much talent. And let's bring this up right now. The Garrett Wilson and Sauce comments talking about, like, getting together with the coaches, something's got to change. We have better talent on this team than what we've seen. It's unacceptable. We need to start winning. Like, that to me tells me the players are clearly understanding and clearly seeing what I think a lot of fans are seeing and saying, like, why is offense hard for us? Garrett Wilson standing on the sideline, he's saying that looks a lot easier over there. They got backup quarterbacks, they got backup offensive linemen. Why is it so fucking hard for the Jets to figure this out? Matt, your thoughts on, I guess, the offensive line regressing potentially with Becton and some of the other players, and, you know, I guess some of the comments made by Sauce and Garrett as well. And then
great. Yeah, I was gonna say great comments from both of them, because they are spot on, and I look at that as a leadership thing from both of them. Like, we need to, like, this can't happen again. This is an area we need to get better. It's not, I'm gonna, you know, bitch and moan and get my way out of here. It's, we got to fix this kind of a thing. And so I don't want to go too nuts into what I'm doing tomorrow on the podcast, but something that I want to do is look at, I have 5 crazy stats from the Jets 2023 season. And one of them has to do with how bad the offense is. They had 11 passing touchdowns on the season. The last time a team had less than 11 was the Chiefs. The Chiefs in 2012. who went 2-14. So that like the levels of ineptitude on offense is something like we've never seen. And it's got to be so frustrating to see what the defense, a top 3 unit in the sport, the special teams, a top 5 unit in the sport, are doing. And the offense, it's like trying to, the caveman to trying to discover fire. They can't figure it out.
It's Zoolander. The files are in the computer.
Yeah, right. Right, exactly. But to Blitzcrew's point, 100%, that absolutely could be a factor. And it's because the offensive staff stinks. The offensive staff is not good enough, which is why you should all be upset about guys like Keith Carter, Todd Downing, Rob Calabrese, who's the
Nathaniel Hackett.
Well, Hackett, obviously, but like I said, I made my peace with it. Taylor Embry. Like, what did they do? Who did they develop to get this job back? I really don't understand their job security. And it is absolutely a legit concern with Carter being here and the regression for some of those guys.
Greenbean, I want to hear from you. What did you think of Sauce and Garrett's comments about the offensive side of the ball and coaching and like we can't have this happening again? What were your thoughts on those comments?
This was the worst year of my life, dog.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you
worst
what,
2
here's
years
what I
of his
would
life.
say.
It wasn't even just this coaching staff. It was like a 2-year thing.
This is what I would say to Garrett Wilson. You're a young fella, and it was a hard year, and we respect that. But welcome to our existence, buddy. This is what we've been doing for 30, 40, 50 years. This is our life. So welcome aboard, friend. Don't give up. Just keep going. Don't be a candy ass. Work through it. That's what I would say. But he also said some interesting things about how Aaron Rodgers would call. And then he said some other things, but he basically said, look, man, with Aaron Rodgers is the real offensive coordinator. That's what I read into it. Maybe I'm thinking too much.
Did you see guys?
Yeah.
I was going to say, did you guys see the McAfee show? And Rodgers alluded to him making the plays. There was a comment in there that said, I designed that or something like that for the last few weeks of the season.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I don't know if that was like a historic thing, like in the past, like he helped develop it, or if it was like current.
Well, I think that I think we've been kind of hinting at it and dancing around it all year. Like the reason that Hackett's offense would be okay with Aaron Rodgers is because it's not Hackett's offense. You know what I mean? And there's the ability to look, we saw a really good example of it in 2 instances, right? We saw the little hand nod that Aaron Rodgers developed with Garrett Wilson, that there's a run play called and the whole team still thinks it's a run, but only Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers knows it's going to be this play. He's going to throw a little back shoulder, to the receiver. And so that's one thing. But remember I think it was Hard Knocks, I think it was the Bucks in the practice, the joint practice. The linebacker was creeping up, or the DB, and Aaron Rodgers said, "You're not coming, so why don't you just back up?" Like he's able to see, and then he didn't come. It was just a fake. He was kind of stepping to the line, doing that whole thing that they do. And it's like he can see that. He knows, well, because of that defense, in response to what we have here, you're not coming. Like he can see. Hackett has no fucking idea. We get delay of games on 4th and 3. You know what I mean? Like that's Hackett. Aaron Rodgers is so I think when Garrett Wilson, he was asked, "Do you think Aaron Rodgers fixes this?" He's like, "Yeah, I do." And here's why. Number one, he's more talented than the quarterbacks we trotted out there. Number two, he's the offensive coordinator. So we weren't just without the quarterback. We were without the offensive coordinator who it's not just about the plays that we have in the book. It's about what's able to happen when we're on the field. Once it's seen, it's like, this is what we're doing, everybody. Aaron Rodgers can do that. Zach can't. Tim Boyle. Well, Tim Boyle maybe can. I mean, he's known as very, very smart and very, very talented. So we don't know about him. But Trevor Siemian, these guys aren't doing that. Aaron Rodgers can do all that shit. And, it's like when guys, a lot of the Zach, the Zach defenders at all costs, they say, not even Aaron Rodgers would change this. I disagree. It's not to say that Aaron Rodgers wouldn't be dealing with the same line, but there were many, many plays where the pressure was right there. But and we saw it with Simeon. Simeon, he throws it right into the pressure. There's a guy right behind. Whether or not he's good enough to connect is another story. But you saw that there were many instances where the same pressure was there, but Simeon got rid of the ball where Zach can't. Aaron Rodgers can do what Simeon did, but better by recognizing it, and can also connect. He can make the decision, make the throw at the same time. So there's a lot there. We talk about it all the time. Yes, the offensive line is vitally important for the quarterback, but there is a component where the quarterback helps the offensive line. That the first half of the year, remember, Zach Wilson, there was that crazy stat. You were talking about it a lot, Ryan. Zach had the most time to throw. Now granted, some of that was because he was extending plays, to be fair. But
I think it was snap to pressure, though. I think that's what the stat was.
Right.
I think it was. So it wasn't even him running around and snap to throw.
So even more supporting of the point I'm trying to make, which I don't even know what it is anymore.
Well, saying Aaron Rodgers can get the ball out quick. It's no different than Tua down in Miami. They don't have a good offensive line, but he's getting the ball out in 2 seconds to his wide receivers. That's the formula for fixing a bad line.
Correct. McDaniel said no one's touching this guy that has a propensity to get concussions. We're not doing it. Our entire offense is predicated on getting that ball out quickly. And they do a great job. You have to commend them. I hate the Dolphins.
I'm jealous of them. That's honestly what it is.
Well, that's for you to deal with. I hate them if they suck. I hate them if they're good. I hate them if they're tall, small, in a house, fucking on a
green eggs and ham.
Right, all this stuff. I hate them. But you gotta, if you're a realistic human being, you gotta look at it and go, yeah, man, well, they're doing it right. And we're not. We're doing these 7-step drops. We have no offensive line, and we're doing 7-step drops. And then you add that to the fact that Zach he's afraid, he's tentative, and he's holding the ball too long. So it's just one of those things where, we talked about it all year, and Garrett Wilson said the same thing. Do you think Aaron Rodgers would have? Yes, I do. And I think that's a huge point. The Sauce comment, I didn't hear that. I heard Saleh, I heard Douglas, I heard Garrett Wilson.
He said we got to talk with the coaches. We got to have. Oh wait, no, you didn't. You just didn't hear the actual presser. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, no, but I didn't hear the comment at all. I heard Aaron Rodgers. He's getting his head chopped off for saying the bullshit that's not about football.
So that's
what a hypocrite. He
is. To be honest, and to Blitzkrieg's point right here, he's saying not looking for this comment to get a lot of airtime, but I wish Aaron would focus on football topics rather than other matters. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. The conversation that he had yesterday saying we can't have this outside noise. To some degree, some of the outside noise is generated, by that.
That's what I was gonna say. This is not me taking a stance on whether what he's saying is right or wrong. I don't care about that. I'm not doing it. But it's very ironic for him to have that quote yesterday, be like, we can't have the outside noise, the bullshit in the locker room, and then 24 hours later go on the show today. There's a little bit of hypocrisy in that. Again, I don't care. Believe whatever you want to believe with what Aaron Rodgers is saying, but it was a little bit have a little bit of self-awareness, my guy.
Yeah, read the room a little bit, or understand what you're. It's silly, but I agree. I'm going to speak out both sides of my mouth here because I don't like hearing the extra drama, but I love watching McAfee and watching the little peek behind Aaron Rodgers on a weekly basis. So I don't know, gives us stuff to talk about, I guess.
Here's what I have to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
He's speaking significantly more to what's going on in the locker room, right? That's what he's talking about. The guy hasn't played football since the 4th play of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You get kind of, you're out there. He's not playing football. He's not training. He's not doing all that shit. Now, Aaron Rodgers, this is the stuff that Green Bay fans got tired of, but at least they got Hall of Fame performance. Yeah. We don't even get that. We just get the shit that nobody likes.
Four snaps and chaos.
But I don't think it's very hypocritical because he's talking about, I mean, maybe a little, but he's talking about in the locker room. Like they all do shit. They're all, they're out there taking pictures. They're in GQ. They're dancing with models. Whatever the hell they got going on the outside is different than the way that if they're holding themselves and they're all football, they're all business in the locker room and on the field, then it doesn't matter. It's when they're kind of not doing that and they're a distraction. I think that's what I took out of it. And maybe I'm homering it up and I'm defending the guy that I'm hoping can save us. I don't know. But I think that it's a little bit overblown. I think that our kind of gotcha culture right now is very, very sensitive, and we look for every nugget. Like that's what we do. We just kind of, and I think it's kind of stupid. That's my own take, but who am I?
So I would say I think you're definitely right. I think that's exactly how Rodgers meant it. I think where Matt and I are coming from is it's just a little hypocritical from like the extra chaos added to it's not necessarily going into the locker room, I guess, but like I don't know. I feel like it's extra stuff that's not about football.
That's also why I didn't want Hard Knocks in August.
Yeah.
Well, none of them wanted it either. I wanted it purely for content and the enjoyment of it all. So that was one of Sauce's comments, Green Bean, was talking about how Hard Knocks and getting Rodgers and everything that kind of went into the offseason and the excitement, and we were just not dialed in the right way. There were games we should have won. He didn't mention any specific games, but it was very clear that I think both him and Garrett were upset with how things were running. We have too much talent on this team, basically. Sky C comes in and says, "Hey guys, Happy New Year. We all feel the same about it. All feel the same about Hackett. What if his play calling doesn't work with Aaron Rodgers next season? Aaron Rodgers gets upset and we are losing again. What happens? They blow it up. Everyone's gone. That's it.
Very clear. Very simple.
And unfortunately, if it doesn't work out, I don't think the Jets hold on to Garrett because I think the new regime coming in." I know it scares the shit out of me, but I think I think if it falls apart next year, the new regime, assuming that Douglas and Saleh are gonna like go all in for next season, and Rodgers ends up retiring at the end of next year, and the dead cap hits in 2025, I think it's going to be a very real situation, similar to like the Jamal situation, where Douglas says, "This is how I reset the franchise. This is our most valuable piece. He's unhappy here because of us, fishing around the trade market." I think, unfortunately, if it doesn't work out, I would imagine Garrett being gone. And that's something that I've brought up a few times, not necessarily about him leaving, but the fifth-year option, there's 4 levels of it, and 2 of them are tied to Pro Bowls. And Garrett Wilson, I think, is a top 3 to top 5 receiver in the AFC and should have had a Pro Bowl nod right now. There's a $6.6 million difference from the 5th-year option he's set to get and the 5th-year option he could get based on like just baseline quarterback play.
Yeah. I mean, like, what is it? 7 quarterbacks he's played with in 2 years?
Yeah, 7 in 2 years.
That's crazy.
4 this year.
That's got to be great. The fact that he's a consecutive think about it. All the receivers we've had, from Elijah Moore to Denzel Mims to fucking Ryan Yarbrough, Alex Van Dyke, and all the guys, we have not had a receiver get 2,000-yard seasons in a 16 and or 17 game season. Even Brandon Marshall and his record-breaking. Well, that's what I mean. It's like since that's 1999 and 2000 and 99 he did that. 98, right. 99. Yeah, so that's the last time we saw it. So in 25 years or 24 years, we haven't seen it. And think about it. He did it with 7 different quarterbacks, half of which were complete losers. Whether it's Streveler, sorry, Tony Alexio, I know you love the Streveler package, I respect it. But from Streveler to Tim Boyle to Trevor Siemian and Mike White, who look, he has his, he had his moments and he has his positives. And truth is, I would have really liked a little bit of Mike White right about this season. You know what I mean? I would have been real happy for Mike White trotting his ass on the field. But Flacco and just all the guys we've had, and he still managed 12 Bills last year and 1,000 this year. What do you have? What was his final number, Ryan?
I don't know. I think it was probably it was just over 1,000.
Or maybe I'll look it up.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, but I mean, like, that's an amazing accomplishment. And it shows, like, if he had Aaron Rodgers this year, dude, he's 15 plus without batting an eyelash, in my opinion. I mean, it's clear to me. And that's why, like, when, there was the story Aaron Rodgers told us when they went back, when Garrett Wilson went back, after the game and talked to him, he just said, "I'm sorry, kid." He knew I'm done for the year and I'm sorry. You're going to have a fucking rough go.
Remember how last year went? Fucking run it back.
Pretty much.
You got Zach. Zach's the best. Yeah. Zach gives us the best chance to win. I know you spent all last year and you were literally, remember Garrett Wilson last year where, he's open on the sideline and Zach just sails it 15 yards over his head and you'd be like, remember that shit? He's like, come on, man. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
dude, him holding his composure as well as he has so far, like, you could tell the frustration in his voice from that press conference. Matt, what are you thinking?
No worst year in my life, dog.
It was almost a carbon copy. So 2022 rookie year, 1103, 4 touchdowns. This year, 1042, 3 touchdowns.
Wait, I'm sorry, Matt. What was it again? I'm sorry.
1103 and 4 in his rookie year last year. This year, 1042 and 3.
It's so bad.
He basically
I think Zach Wilson only has 2 touchdowns to him too. Flacco has more touchdowns to Garrett, right?
Yes.
Oh my God, that is brutal.
That's an absurd stat.
And look what G Dubs had to do to get one of those. You know what I mean? Like that circus ass catch, the bobble heard around the world. It's like, dude, no wide receiver not named Justin Jefferson or, it's the elites that make that happen. And he had to do that to get one of those 3 big touchdowns. I can't believe how painful this is. I'm hurting right now. I want you to know that. This is not a good topic for me.
Ace of Spade comes in, says, Jets injury prone roster wise, JD should seek depth. Yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, we've just had so many injuries the last 2-3 years. Like even before Salah got here too. Like I remember with Gase, it was like some historic amount of contract dollars on IR on a consistent basis. It was like $50+ million each year. And the only team that beat us, I think, was the Steelers because Big Ben got knocked out for the season. I think that was the same year. Yeah, not good. Gotta have depth here. Lucky Leo comes in the super chat. Thank you so much, dude. Says, hey guys, do you think our defense will change from game to game next year? One game zone, the other man. I think it should be flexible. I mean, do other teams change from game to game? I want to see it. So I don't think it's going to change. I think they like the, Sauce and Reed playing one side of the field. That's all they have to know. They master that side of the field. Everyone knows their assignments. That's just how it's going to be, unfortunately. I love what the Patriots did with Darrelle Revis. Like on their Super Bowl run, they were like, hey, Revis, you're playing the number 2 receiver all the time, and our number 2 corner is going to have safety help and cover the number 1 corner. That's what I would like to see. I think that's the best defense, and it nukes everyone. And then you have Michael Carter covering the 3rd wide receiver. I'd love to see it. I don't think the Jets make any kind of moves from changing their philosophy, having 2 years of like top 5 defense. Green Bean, what about you? What do you think about the defense and potentially changing up how we cover certain receivers?
Yeah, I mean, like we were bothered a lot by the idea, like, okay, there's a really great example was the CeeDee Lamb game, right? And then there was one recently. Who was it? Oh, it was the Miami game with Waddle.
Yep.
He just shredding the living shit out. And then there was the Browns game with Njoku that whole first half. He was just like uncoverable, it seemed, by our linebackers. And I would like them to adjust sooner. Clearly, this team knows how to, and Salah, Ulbricht, and the rest, they know how to, whatever it is, kind of tweak, adjust, and come out in the second half and shut it down. We've seen that numerous times, and that's a huge positive because many Jets teams couldn't do that. So we at least got that. Now, I would love to see them tweak it a little bit earlier, but here's the truth of it, dudes. Our defense is stout. Now, they just like everybody else, they give up their plays and they have their, their rough patches and all that. But by and large, our defense, if coupled with a legitimate offense, and I'm talking average offense, let's say 15th, 14th in the NFL, this defense is undeniably one or two in the NFL. And the reason being, like, I was talking to somebody earlier. They're like, we got to blitz more. We got to blitz more. Yeah, I'm a big fan of blitz, and I love a good blitz. I come from that era but like, if the optimal defense, if you have your front four and you can generate legitimate pressure with that front four, what that enables you to do is flood the rest of the field with coverage. And that's what kind of cuts off all the lanes. It packs the zones, and it confuses the living hell out of quarterbacks. And it makes it so that front four, if given that extra half second, they're getting home. And that's the thing. So, like, what we're doing is working. Now, if there's a period of a game where it doesn't, or one game out of 17 that it looks like we're being exploited, then that happens. But I would rather see them stick to their guns, because we already know it hurts. Works, rather than kind of panic-strickenly, change everything and try to adjust on the fly. I would like to see those adjustments, those little tweaks happen a little bit earlier. But by and large, man, I think, like, if our defense works and there's a game here or there where it doesn't, I'll take that. Like, you got to take the good with the bad. And I think the bad is significantly less than the good. The problem, guys, has been our offense.
Matt, what do you think about the defense? You think you'd switch anything up as far as how we do coverages?
No. No, I don't think they do. I think they are just so stubborn. Has a negative connotation to it. I don't know if that's the right word, but they're very strong in their beliefs on how this defense is supposed to operate, and it's had a lot of success, significantly more success than failure. So honestly, I'm just excited to watch this team and this defense play with a lead next year, because think of guys like Bryce Huff with 10.5 sacks, playing 40% of snaps, never leading. Like, I would like this guy back on my team so we could have 15 or 16 sacks next year. I think Will McDonald could have a year or two lead, but Jermaine Johnson continues to come along. So I don't think they've changed much up from that defense.
Yeah, this defense is going to be number one next year. When you start talking about playing with a lead and just how many sacks these guys were able to get home on, it's unreal. And to Green Bean's point, the coverage being dropped back, everything's about confusing and delaying whoever you're going against, whatever matchup it is. If it's a mismatch with a tight end or with a really strong safety that can cover a tight end, and it makes the quarterback think for a quarter of a second, half a second longer. That's that little bit of extra time that the pass rushers need to get home. So yeah, I agree. Don't change anything and just play with a lead next year. Oscar comes in and says JD needs to draft a quarterback in the 4th or 5th rounds. C. Ward. So I would like the Jets to pull the trigger on a developmental quarterback in the back half of this draft. Somewhere, I don't want to put a round on it necessarily, but in my head, I'm thinking we're getting an impact player in rounds 1 and 3, and then we have 2 picks in the 4th round, and that's probably where I'd start to really, feel quarterback at that point. I'm open, high upside guy. I don't want to see him get the field at all. Quarterback 3, just learn behind Rodgers for at least a year. Matt, I'll throw that one to you. Do you know any quarterbacks you're particularly looking at?
Michael Pratt out of Tulane is my favorite mid-round dart throw. Cam Ward's a good one, though.
Lucky Leo says Graziano is a jerk. I don't know if I know what Graziano said.
He's been going back at Aaron Rodgers a lot this last week or so.
I got you.
Don't watch. Don't click, Leo. Don't click, and it'll stop.
That's what gets them. They trigger you, and then that's exactly what they want. They don't care if you have something good or bad to say. It's just the engagement that they want.
And they know we're triggerable.
We're very easy. Blitzkrieg comes in and says, I want an upgrade at safety for the defense, though, and need someone next to Quinnen. You think CJ is back next year? I think CJ reworks his deal and they align him to align with Aaron Rodgers' contract. So whether that is 1 year next year and he's done, or 2 years because they think Rodgers is going to be here for 2 years, I think that's what ends up happening. We'll have our quarterback of the defense. For better or worse, I think they'll just lower the cap hit on him. As far as safety, I would like to see Ashton Davis. I'd like to see Tony Adams, and I'd like to see us re-sign Chuck Clark. That would be what I'd like to see the safety room end up being. There might be someone else in there that I'm just like blanking on right now, but Ashton Davis deserves to come back, and I want to see what Clark could be. Matt, what are your thoughts on the safety room?
That you nailed it. Chuck Clark, I would like to bring back his, to quote friend of the program, Buffalo Jet fan, the tackling upgrade going from Whitehead to Chuck Clark would feed families. It's
Great.
that is something that I would very much so like to see. Have him and Davis either split reps, get 3 on the field, whatever you got to do. Tony Adams at free safety. Maybe you add a safety.
Like Jamal Adams?
No. That's a linebacker. His career. I was gonna say like a free safety type as a UDFA or a late round swing, or maybe I forgot about Jarek Bernard Converse, so maybe you don't need to do that.
Oh, that's the other name. Yep, there you go.
Nailed it.
Matt, can you head over to last week's show stream? We're gonna pick some timestamp people. If you guys want to get in on our jersey giveaway, our t-shirt giveaway, pillow giveaway, all you got to do is leave the timestamp comment down below this video after it's done being aired, and you'll get entered into next week's t-shirt giveaway. So we're gonna be picking names from last week. Green Bean, I want to ask you the question while Matt is pulling that up. What do you think of our safety room for next year?
I love it. I think we should re-sign everybody, including Jordan Whitehead. He's the best.
Oof.
I don't know about Chuck Clark though. I hear you, like the idea of Chuck Clark, like Matt was saying, the tackling and all that, and the versatility. Don't forget that he's got the versatility. But I don't know like how he was here for 10 minutes and he has no field history with us. So I don't know. I do think, guys, I know people are upset with the ill-advised lateral in the Patriots game, but Ashton Davis, in my opinion, has earned it. Mm-hmm. And I think that we should consider having him as part of the starting rotation. Like was mentioned earlier, Tony Adams is on the ascend, and I think he's good. And again, like you mentioned too, Jarek Bernard Converse. I think this fucking place is haunted. I want you to know. I got a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
Guy's an idiot.
Either haunted or they're bears.
So yeah, he's gonna get attacked live on the
Either
air.
way, I'm getting killed tonight. But that's okay. I got a chicken fence out there, so bears I don't have to worry about bears.
It's like the Jets' offensive line, just chicken wire. It's fine. They'll stop the Bears.
Right? They're like, oh, how's it feel, asshole? You're criticizing Zach. It don't feel good. So now, but yeah, I don't know. I think that we got to bring on a safety. I'd love to see. I keep using this 4th round pick. So far, I've used the 4th round pick in my mind on Jordan Travis, on a wide receiver, on a guard. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a really good, important 4th round pick. But I'd like to see the 4th round pick used on maybe a safety too. So I don't know. I think you got to bring somebody on, but I'm not the biggest, detractor anymore of Ashton Davis. I think he's shown, dude. He knows how to make plays. He's developed nicely, and he's made plays both like in run support. He had that amazing like crushing of the right side of the line for his safety in that game. He knows how to find the ball and get picks. He's done well in coverage, significantly better than we were. We were all upset with him his first 2 years about the coverage. But so I don't know. I think we're good, but bring on somebody for competition in the same way they brought on Amos this year. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think, I'm really interested to see what happens with the linebackers. Like he mentioned CJ. I'm real curious to see how that kind of fleshes out over the next few months. But yeah, I think our safety room might be pretty good, guys.
Ooh. All right, Green Bean, I need to hear from you. How many contestants do we have in our giveaway tonight?
Let me see here. Okay, I added that one. Yeah, not many tonight. We're a little light here, Ryan. 7 or 16. 16.
And Matt, how many timestamps do we got?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7.
Ooh. All right. Let's do all 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Green Bean, tell me when you're ready.
I'm anxiously awaiting your input.
All right. Phil the Jet Adams.
Good man.
Nice. All right, I love it.
Eric Craig.
There he is.
Like him. Good guy.
My boys so far.
James Falls.
All right.
Actually, I'm going to toss this guy in too. Across the pond. He says, I'm a dinosaur and don't know how to timestamp, but I want to win a jersey or t-shirt. So
Love it.
I'm going to put him
Deserves it.
Good man. Good man.
in. Pure Imagination is next.
Pure imagination.
Eric Craig, we got in there, so we're
Yeah.
not going to repeat him. James Falls, is he a repeat? He is also.
Yeah.
Throw them both in there. Okay, you know, as long as they're different timestamps, I think that's fine.
Okay, there are different timestamps, so you could double 2 for James Falls and another one for Eric Craig, and then last is Greg Gagne.
Greg Gagne.
Gagne.
All right, Greg. There you go, buddy.
So how many do we have now? We got 25?
600. No,
600.
24.
24. All right. Random number generator number 14.
Oscar De Leon.
Ooh, Oscar, let's spin the wheel. See what we get. Oh, come on. Hold on. Come on. I had it all set up where I could just click a button and it would go. Let's see if I can actually get it to go. Mother trucker. Now I got to log in. This is stupid.
No.
Stupid. You know what? When you're playing with widgets.
Well, when Ryan's doing that, Green Bean, I was supposed to ask you something like 2 hours ago, but I forgot. I was supposed to ask you about what it was like eating the last dab on Thursday.
Oh, I was supposed to do that 2 hours ago too. Well, I don't know. So this Thursday, everybody, as you guys know, we're doing the Thursday thick of it at 8 p.m. But on the Brooklyn Brothers Food Review channel, I will be going head to head against egghead pussy boy Jeremy himself with the last dab, supposedly the hottest hot sauce on the planet. We're both going to do it, and we're going to see who handles it better. Now, Jeremy's done a lot more hot saucing than I have over the past few years. I used to fancy myself quite the hot sauce guy. I'm not anymore. Yet I still think I'm going to handle it better than Jeremy because I believe strongly that I am more of a man than Jeremy. That's what I believe. I don't know if I'm right. You could see. Fucking check into the Brooklyn Brothers Food Review at 7 p.m. this Thursday before the Thursday thick of it, and we'll see.
Wheel is spinning. Wheel is spinning. Wow, that got close. Mug.
Nice.
Mug.
Let's
Oscar,
go.
you win a mug.
Oscar, reach out to us, talkinjetshow@gmail.com or jetstalk247@gmail.com. Get your shipping information. We'll send you out a Talkin' Jets mug. Thank you so much for playing along tonight. Boys and girls, we've reached the end of our show. Let's go around and give our closing thoughts. Green Bean, any last words?
Yeah, the Just Jets comes out tomorrow, and I'm really excited to hear that. What episode? 204?
3, 4, something like that.
You know, Matt, let me admit something to you real quick. I had every intention from like episode 195 on. My plan was to call in on episode 200. And when I heard episode 200, I was furious. I'm like, no, I was so angry in my car. So I'm sorry. Even though you didn't know, I'm sorry.
Well, the intention is most important, and you had good intention. So that makes sense.
I did. So, yeah, we'll do the Thursday thick of it, the Brooklyn Brothers Food Review, and we got no game streak. Well, you know what? Jeremy and I are going to pick either the Dolphins game and the Bills game. Which one's on Sunday?
I know the Dolphins game is on Peacock on Saturday. I know that.
We're not doing that one. My Saturday's booked. I got a prepper thing I'm doing.
I know Sunday is Lions-Rams is the late game.
Yeah, Bills is Sunday at 1.
So Jeremy and I will be doing a live stream for the Bills game against the Steelers. So come hang. If you're going to watch the game, come hang out with us. We'll watch and root against the Bills.
Matt, any last words for our panel?
I'm excited to get into off-season mode with you guys. This is where we shine, and more to come. More to come.
Boys and girls, I have switched gears into off-season mode. I've already released 5 players I think the Jets should target at the number 10 overall pick. I show you highlights, I give you stats, I give you all that good stuff. We're going to be going down through all the different position groups through free agency and the draft. Going to be talking about it on this channel as well. But boys and girls, it's been a lot of fun hanging out with you tonight. This is Jets Talk signing off. JETS.
Just go somewhere else. I can't take this nonsense anymore. How are you going to blame the defense?
I got the power. Screw green bean. Damn it.
But once you get to the sausage, I feel like we're doing something.
Go Jets.
And that's the other part of it is that people are insanely jealous of this show. This show gets the best of the best, and it does a different way with positivity.
He scores!
Ow, my head! No, come on.
What would you give up to see a Jets Super Bowl?
All of my friends and family.
Hit those milk done, boys and girls.
Freeze run.
Hold on to your underwear, ladies, and stand by, bitches. It's now time for Talkin' Jets with your hosts, Matt, Ryan, and Green Bean.
Jets!